From the Sunshine State, this is Tampa Bay's 10 Talk.
It's time for FLA Law, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
Good evening. It is Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and so we are here in the studios for FLA Law on the radio. My name is Matthew Noyes, and I'm one of the attorneys at the law firm of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes, the first personal injury law firm in Clearwater and one of the first in Tampa Bay. We have been helping people for personal injury matters since 1955, so this year we get to celebrate our 70th birthday. So thank you to all the people that have trusted us over the years, and as a thank you, we like to put on this show to be available for you to answer questions that you may have, not just on our areas of law, such as personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security disability, but we have special guests that come in each week, and they share their knowledge and their time with you to answer the questions that they have, that in the areas of law that they specialize in as well. And today is no exception. We have a very fine man and even a finer attorney. We have John Tucker here. John, thank you for coming to FLA Law once again.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Great. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about you and your areas of law that you specialize and how you can answer questions for them today?
Well, I'm a disability attorney. You all do Social Security disability, but we do some other areas of disability work, in particular veterans disability, and we represent people in long-term disability insurance cases. So those are somewhat different from Social Security.
Yes, they're very different. We always send them over to you.
And I've been doing those for 34 years. So one of the first cases that was referred to me only 6 months out of law school was a long-term disability insurance case. And that's how I got into it at a time when no one else was doing it. So been doing it quite a while now.
Great. And your office is in St. Pete, but you can really operate anywhere, can't you?
We're in St. Petersburg, but we actually have employees in 6 states. So I've got lawyers around the country, and we represent clients literally in all 50 states.
Oh, perfect. And because it's federal law, you're able to do that, kind of like our Social Security disability as well.
Correct.
That's wonderful. Well, that's John Tucker. This is Matt Noyes, and we are here to answer your questions for the next hour. There's 3 ways to get in touch with us today. One is calling us live on the radio, and that number is 727-441-3000. You can call us and ask us a question regarding our areas of law, or really any areas of law. And John and I have been doing this long enough that I think we can at least touch different areas of law, or at least guide you to the right place of who you need to talk to in those areas if they're not our specialty. So one, give us a call at 727-441-3000. Secondly, we are live on Facebook right now. You can see us in the studio, and you can type in your question right there on Facebook Live. It is on the firm's Facebook page at Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes Injury Lawyers. Perenich is Perenich. And you can just jump right into our live Facebook page and type in your question there and say hello. Let us know that you're listening and watching, and we'd wave right back to you. And the third way you can get in touch with us is the firm's YouTube channel. Again, that's Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes Injury Lawyers. And you can type in your question right on the YouTube channel as well. And Ed on the other side of the glass will let us know if there is a question from YouTube, and we'll be happy to tackle those questions as well. So 3 ways: telephone, Facebook, or YouTube. So jump on when you can, before it gets too close to the end of the show. And we'll be happy to address your questions, your concerns, or even your thoughts. So, John, I did want to touch base with you. And, you've been doing VA disability and other disabilities for a long time. What inspired you to focus your law practice on helping veterans with disability benefits?
It's funny. When I started doing disability work, we couldn't actually get paid to assist a veteran. So we did it pro bono.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the law changed now about almost 20 years ago, to allow a lawyer to get paid to assist a veteran with an appeal. It's still illegal to charge a veteran to file an application. So we still have help veterans file applications pro bono, meaning we don't charge a fee. But it was one of those areas that we could give back to a segment of our community that had given to our country. And it was an opportunity to help people, just like most of the disability practice that we have. But of course, it's a little different. It's for that 10% of the people that have taken their lives and devoted them to some level of service, whether it's a few years in the Army or the Navy or the Marine Corps or the Air Force, or 20 or 25 years
Right.
and retired.
Right. Well, it's a very valid reason why to do it, and those guys and gals really need the representation. I'm surprised that you're not allowed to charge or get compensated for helping them with applications, because the application sometimes is the hardest part to make sure that everything is done correctly, right?
That's true, but I think the idea is that the VA is supposed to afford the veteran the benefits that they're supposed to get, and that a veteran shouldn't have to pay somebody to get these benefits that they've earned. And if the VA does its job properly, as they do in many, many cases, the veteran gets the benefits they should receive. And then if an attorney has to come in to correct errors by the VA to get a rating percentage increased or get a disability connected to service, that appeal is going to require additional time, and the veteran can pay an attorney or an agent at that time to help them.
Well, it's kind of like Florida workers' comp. It's Florida workers' comp supposed to be self-executing as well.
Right.
But it's certainly not. It's more deny, and then investigate. And so oftentimes injured workers need to jump in the beginning with some representation for their work comp claim. So
right.
I wish I could say that workers' comp was like the VA and they provided the benefits they were supposed to do.
Well, I don't think we'd have a busy practice if the VA provided all of the benefits they were supposed to.
And that's what I always tell. I tell the clients, even after the auto accident, I said, if the insurance companies only did what they were supposed to do, we'd be out of a job.
We wouldn't have a job. That's right.
We stay quite busy. Oh, goodness. What type of claims can a veteran receive VA benefits compensation for?
The bottom line is anything that happens to a veteran while they're in the service can actually be a service-connected disability. So if it persists as a problem, a physical or mental problem after they leave service, it can be service-connected. That could be a disease. It could be an injury. It could be mental health issues. And it doesn't have to be connected to combat.
I was going to ask that question. Does it have to be combat related?
It can be anything. The veteran could be stationed in a place where they're in bunk beds and they roll out of the top rack and fall and hurt their shoulder, and they have a shoulder injury, and that's going to be a service-connected disability.
Oh, okay.
It could be a sexually transmitted disease. It could be
exposure kind of conditions.
Exposure
as well?
issues. It could be take a female veteran that has ovarian cancer while she's in the service. That's actually a service-connected disability. So anything that happens to a veteran 24/7 while they're in the service is a service-connected disability.
So even let's say it's a heart attack or something like that. Unlike workers' comp, again, I know because I keep referring back because the veterans like doing their job while they're in the military. But in a workers' comp case, if it's heart related, and most times it's not compensable under the workers' comp, but in the VA, as long as it's while they were in service, that would be compensable for VA benefits.
It would be, and there's a handful of things that wouldn't be. For instance, as your eyes get worse as you get older, that's not something that's normally service connected unless there was some kind of injury. Some kind of a latent mental defect, that someone had grown up with, that may not be covered also. But pretty much everything else.
I can imagine, and for what they have to see and what they have to do, I can imagine that there's a lot of mental disabilities. Do you see that?
A really large number of our clients have stressor-related disorders, what most people would call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's not just from witnessing battle-related injuries and
or
deaths.
things like that.
It can also be from seeing a car accident or training accidents. We've had clients who were stationed on ships who saw their shipmates fall off the side of the ship and die or catch fire.
Ooh.
But it can also be from sexual trauma. That's actually a really big problem in the military, not just male on female, but also male on male, same sex sexual assault. As well as personal assaults that can occur, fights, things
Sure.
like that.
Sure. What are the common mistakes that you see veterans make when they're first filing their claim by themselves?
I think one of the most common problems that veterans have is they go to a doctor once, they get a diagnosis for something, and they file a claim and they list the name of the diagnosis on the form, but they don't continue to see the doctor. They think, well, I've got this diagnosis, they should know I have a problem. And they don't document the fact that they actually do have a disability. They just have a medical condition. As you know, when a doctor gives you that diagnosis, that doesn't necessarily say how severe it is or the
Right.
symptoms that you're having from that condition. So you've got to continue to see a doctor. So when they file their application forms, they'll very often write 1 word, 2 words, just the diagnosis. Sometimes they'll just write the body part that is involved. And the VA does have a legal obligation to go investigate and find out what's going on. But there are many veterans who apply, in fact, without having ever seen a doctor since they left the service. And sometimes that's 10, 20 years ago, and they've just lived with a problem, but they're not documenting it by continuing to go to a doctor. So the VA says, well, how's this connected to your service if you're not treating?
How do you overcome that?
Well, there are various ways to sort of bridge that gap. Depending on how long the veteran has been out, we may be able to get statements from other people to show that something happened to them when they were in the service, that they were continuing to have symptoms. Someone's spouse, for instance, let's say a veteran has sleep apnea and they snore horribly, choke in their sleep. Well, their spouse is the best witness to
Sure.
that, right? Every night they're watching this and they can prepare, we can work with them to prepare a statement, a lay witness statement that is essentially testimony that explains what's going on. Well, if you get enough of these things and piece them together, you can bridge that gap. And of course, you can get them to start seeing a doctor and reporting what's going on.
That makes sense. And we see that a lot. And I bet you see that in your regular disability battles and claims that you have yourself, that we may have a doctor who says Joe Smith is disabled and unable to do his or her duties, period. And they think, oh, well, gosh, I have the doctor saying I'm disabled, I win. And so just like in Social Security disability, I believe it's the same thing for the VA. That's not good enough. Not
No.
even in the disability policy claims either.
No. In fact, in the VA world, the doctor will say, this is service connected. Why?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
My joke has always been, remember the old Wendy's commercial with the older lady who says, where's the beef?
Yeah.
Well, where's the beef, doc?
Yeah.
Why? Tell us why. And that why is really important. Whether it's a disability insurance case where we're trying to say that the person can't work, or a VA case where we're trying to explain why this is connected to something that happened to them in the service.
Now, I know in our cases with Social Security disability and even with auto accidents and other personal injury claims, when our client treats just with the VA, it's very hard to understand their medical records. They don't really document everything perfectly in the VA records, and they're just pages and pages and pages. Do you see that in the VA claims as well, I suspect? And what do you do to counter that, or to use those medical records to help build your claim?
Well, we do. It's a little different in VA practice because we don't have to show how it stops somebody from working to service connect the condition and to get a rating for it. If the medical records document the symptoms, that can be enough.
Okay.
Excuse me. The VA medical system is actually pretty amazing. It's the largest medical system in the country.
Right.
But you're right. Their records are voluminous, but not always very clear,
Amen.
and not always very detail oriented, right? And
A lot of
sometimes
repetition, that's for sure.
you're digging for that needle in a haystack, though,
Right.
and that's what takes us a lot of time. Veterans will come to see us and we'll say, listen, we've got to go through your records. And if they've been going to the doctor, it could mean thousands of pages of records
Sure.
to pour through. If our clients are pursuing multiple disability claims, they're very often seeing different doctors too at the VA. And of course, the different doctors operate in their silo, right? They don't talk about all the different problems. They just talk about the one that they're treating.
Right.
And sometimes we can pull some really nice nuggets of gold out of those records, but a lot of times it's just not enough. They're vague. So we do have to get medical opinions sometimes from outside sources to kind of tie everything together and help the VA understand what's actually happened for a given veteran.
It's like putting a puzzle together.
It is.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
And I think it's so important because if you're missing one or two of the pieces, you don't know, what's really that puzzle's supposed to be. And so
That's
I
true.
think that's so important.
That's true. I tell our clients all the time, we help you talk VA,
Yeah.
that's
Exactly
our
true.
job.
That's right. That's John Tucker. He is a disability, a VA disability attorney, as well as a health insurance disability policy attorney as well. We'll go into a little more detail about that. If you have a disability claim through work, it's a whole different monster in itself as opposed to having your own disability policy. We'll go into that as well. But John's here to answer questions that you have regarding VA disability or disability claims. I'm Matthew Noyes with the law firm of Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes, and I'm here to answer questions you have regarding personal injury, workers' comp, Social Security, disability, or really any type of personal injury matter. And between John and myself, I think we can tackle any legal questions that you may have. So we welcome you again. 3 ways to get in touch with us. Telephone 727-441-3000. Facebook at Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes Injury Lawyers. And YouTube at Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes Injury Lawyers. Now, I said that we're going to tackle your questions, but I'm going to steal this from the home team with Paul Porter. Yeah, Paul Porter is the radio announcer for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the I think he is what is he for the Tampa Bay Bucks? He's the press box announcer, and he does a show here on this station every Saturday morning from 9 until 11. And he's had my son, who is a sports fanatic, come and be a special guest from time to time. And so I told Paul, I said, Paul, you do something that I'm going to steal from you for FLA Law on the Radio. And that he does a trivia question. So he wants the listeners to come up with an answer to the trivia question, and then they get a little present sent over to them on behalf of the home team. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it a little bit different. I can't do a sports question, but we're going to do something that has to do with what we're talking about. And the question that we have, the trivia question we have, is approximately how many U.S. military veterans are there today? I know you're going to know the answer, John, so you can't answer it. But I'll even give you multiple choice. 8 million, 10 million, 12 million, or 16 million. So again, the question, approximately how many U.S. military veterans are there today? 8, 10, 12, or 16 million. Jump on Facebook to give us your guess, or or give us a call. Let us know your guess, and we'll be giving you that answer a little bit later on in the show. So, John, let's get back. And, we were talking about the VA disability ratings. Can you explain what that is and how do they come up with the VA disability ratings?
I can. I wish I could do it in Paul Porter's voice, one of the best radio voices we have in the Tampa Bay area, right?
That's for sure.
VA rates every individual condition that a veteran has as a separate rating. And each condition has criteria that the VA has assigned percentages to. So starting back, actually before World War II and after World War II, the Department of Veterans Affairs made determinations about how disabling a condition would be in terms of your ability to get a job and keep a job. Some conditions are, in VA's eyes, relatively minor. Tinnitus, ringing in the ears, which almost every veteran has because they've been around weapons firing.
I could imagine. Sure.
You can get a 10% rating for that and no more.
Okay.
Other conditions, I mentioned sleep apnea earlier. The government has recognized that the impact bad sleep has on a person can be very significant, and the rating can be up to 50%. There are other gradations of that, though. So the VA has criteria at each of these stages. And depending upon the condition, that may be lab tests that show a certain level. For orthopedic injuries like backs and knees and hips and ankles, it's range of motion primarily, but it also can be laxity or looseness in a joint. For mental health conditions, there's a whole other set of criteria about how that mental condition impacts a person's social interactions and their ability to work. And a veteran can get rated all the way to 100% for a significant mental health condition that impacts their ability to socialize and hold a job. So each condition has its own rating based on these schedules, what the VA calls their diagnostic codes. And then they're combined with not addition. We call it VA math.
Okay.
And it's there's a formula for how they combine different ratings. And it can be very confusing.
Because I was going to ask you, is it just the highest rating of the disability? But it's not. They do the combination of if a veteran has 5 or 6 different conditions that can be rated. How do they do that?
Well, take a veteran who has a 70% and a 10%. They'll take that 70% rating and they'll look at that and say, all right, that veteran is 30% able-bodied, 70% disabled. They'll take the 10%, apply it to the remaining 30. What's 10% of 30? 3. So that veteran has a 73%. Until the veteran gets to 75, it doesn't round up. So a 70 plus a 10 is a 70.
Okay.
That's why it's VA math.
That is VA math.
But
it sounds like my son's
math.
That's
5 or 6 or 7 or 8 conditions, that math can actually get a little convoluted. And ultimately, though, a veteran can be combined all the way up to 100%. And then there's additional compensation a veteran can get when they have significant life-impairing disability. So over and above the 100%. But typically, 100% is the maximum a veteran's going to get.
Okay. And could they be receiving the VA disability benefits and still hold down a job and get compensated?
Yes, that's a great question. If a veteran gets what we call a scheduler, a percentage rating of 100%, they can still work.
Oh, good. Okay.
VA has another type of compensation called total disability based on individual unemployability, where a veteran who has a rating percentage under 100, but those conditions prevent them from working, can get paid as if they were 100% rated.
Okay.
But in that case, it's a lot like your Social Security disability cases. You have to prove you can't do what VA calls substantial gainful activity. That means earning the poverty level each month, which is very similar to the Social Security system.
Yes. So that's very interesting, because I think some people think, well, gosh, I'm receiving VA benefits. I simply cannot work anymore. And actually work, and you know this as well in your area of law, work can be very therapeutic. If you can do it, that you want to encourage people to socialize and work if they mentally and physically can do that.
That's the funny thing. I think the general population thinks that we as disability lawyers want everybody to be disabled,
right?
But it's exactly the opposite. I'm sure you're like me. I can't tell you the number of clients over the years that I've told, if you can find a job that accommodates you, go work.
Right.
It's so much better for you mentally.
Right.
And you'd prefer to be doing that. Work until you just can't do it anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I want to shift just a little bit. We'll go back to the VA disability, but you do a whole bunch more of disability claims besides VA. So why don't we tell our listeners a little bit about the other types of disability claims that you and your office handles?
So disability insurance is really 2 different categories. There's policies people have bought on their own from a local insurance agent. And then there's disability insurance they have through work. The vast majority of people have coverage through work.
Right.
And that's covered under a law called the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, what some people call ERISA.
I'm glad you said it, because I know it's ERISA. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it stands for.
Most people have no idea what that's about.
That's right.
That was a law that was designed to protect pensions. And as you probably know, fewer than 1% of the people in the country are now protected by a pension in retirement.
Right.
But it regulates all employee benefits, whether that's health insurance, disability insurance, long-term care, apprenticeship programs, life insurance, you name it. It's all covered under the same law, ERISA. And ERISA's got a lot of peculiarities. It takes a lot of rights away from employees compared to private insurance that they buy on their own.
The amount of knowledge I know about ERISA is I hear the word ERISA and I think of you. I said, go talk to John Tucker. He's the one that you can deal with.
I am blessed. For years, people have called me the ERISA guy. I appreciate that moniker, but
tell them, if there is an ERISA disability claim, why is it so important to have an attorney, and when should they hire an attorney?
Well, ideally from the very beginning, like you were saying earlier, there are certain areas of the law where you want to have an attorney from the beginning. ERISA is a peculiar animal in that all of the evidence that ever gets added to your case, gets added while you're making a claim before you file a lawsuit. So under ERISA, you make a claim. If it's denied, you get an appeal. Typically, you don't get more than one appeal. But when that appeal's done, it's a closed book.
Oh.
You don't get to testify in court. Your doctor won't ever get to come to court. You can't bring some vocational expert to explain why you can't work. You had to put all the evidence into that insurance company's claim file before they ever denied your appeal.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a big problem because, of course, most people are thinking, well, it's obvious I can't work.
I got that doctor's note who says I'm disabled.
Right. And I got this coverage. My employer is going to take care of me here.
Right.
No.
And so if somebody tries to do it themselves and they fail to get the vocational expert or records from a very important doctor that they just may have thought not necessary, or updated medical records even, they can't use that information to fight their denial.
Not once the appeal was decided. So if somebody files an application and it's denied, they absolutely should have a lawyer at that point. And the medical evidence that they're sending in can't just talk about the diagnosis. Like a Social Security case, it has to talk about what they can and can't do, how they're limited. And, that's a hard thing for people to talk about. And of course, it's worse because doctors don't want to write that down. They're not trained to document disability claims. So getting that kind of information into the file beyond just the person saying it in a letter, hey, I can't do this, is hard. Ideally, you want it in your medical records.
That's right. And you're building a building, to kind of establish why you need those disability benefits.
Absolutely.
And the other type, the private disability policies, how is that different than the ERISA? Is it the same kind of setup, the same kind of process and such?
They're similar policies, but typically they don't have a pre-suit appeal that's mandatory. And you can file a lawsuit and you'll have a trial in front of a jury.
You will have a trial in front of the jury?
Have a trial in front of a jury. So in all 50 states. So you'll get to go in front of 6 people just like you who probably don't think much of insurance companies.
Right.
And in some states, no longer Florida, you'll actually recover your attorney fees when you win. You also have the chance to pursue bad faith in those cases. In ERISA, there's no bad faith.
Is there a jury trial in ERISA?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, in fact, usually there's not a trial at all. One of my standing jokes is I think I'm the dean of ERISA trial lawyers in Florida because I've done 3 ERISA trials in 3 decades. We just don't do trials. They're all decided on briefs.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And so it is so important that if someone has a disability policy and they can't work, they really need to talk to an attorney such as yourself, even before they start the process, so they know what the steps are going to be necessary, and so they can plan accordingly.
If you think you may not be able to keep working because you have a chronic condition that's getting worse, consult a lawyer.
Right.
Talk to a lawyer about what you need to do to set up your disability claim and document it. When I say set up, I don't say that in a pejorative way. You're not committing fraud. You're just documenting what's happening in your life, and you wouldn't naturally do that. We don't naturally talk about our disability. We don't naturally go out when somebody says, "How are you doing?" You don't say, "Oh, well, let me tell you, I can't sit for more than 10 minutes." You know?
That's true. And I have a problem socializing with people, and I don't want to, I feel closed in. But we do the same thing with our Social Security disability. I mean, we take so many calls where people are working, but they're struggling working. Right. And as you know, Social Security disability requires you to be out for 12 months or expected to be out for 12 months, but in reality, be out for 12 months.
Sure.
And so it's important that they say, okay, if I'm gonna be out for 12 months, if I have to be out for 12 months, I'm fighting really hard just to do what I'm doing now. How can I plan their life to be able to support themselves while they fight through the Social Security disability?
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's the same thing with your disability and even the VA disabilities, right?
It is, particularly with those TDIU, total disability based on individual unemployability claims. I find in the disability insurance, one of the things that comes up, and this is particularly true for chronic diseases like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and dementia as it develops, things like that. The people making the decisions, they're really looking for that day when things change. They're like, well, what made you stop working? Why did you decide that day that you were going to stop working? And people can make a simple mistake like quitting on the last day of the month on a Friday, as opposed to going until they can go and saying, I can't do this anymore. That just happens to be a Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning when they walk into their boss. It's odd how those two things look totally different to the person making the decision, but it can really matter. And when you're documenting what's happening, whether it's a Social Security case, a disability insurance case, or even a VA case, there's a paper trail that you can see it. As a lawyer, you're watching this progression of the person.
Right.
Things are getting harder. Symptoms are getting greater. They can't do as much. And a good disability case, you can clearly see that in the medical records.
And sometimes our client can't, because, nobody wants to think of the bad stuff, I mean, and so they forget what they used to be able to do or how they used to live. And they just grow accustomed to the new normal.
Right.
And the new normal just seems to get worse and worse and worse as time goes by. But they sometimes don't want to remember what they were able to do. I bet you see that a lot in the VA arena for sure.
And oddly enough, they try to make themselves feel better. So if you look at their social media, they're posting all these pictures from 5 years ago when they could still do things. In the disability insurance world, that can be the kiss of death because an adjuster doesn't know that's from 5 years ago. And they're looking at the social media saying, wait a second, you're playing beach volleyball, right?
Say, look at me. You think I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think that's why spouses and other family members and I don't know, friends and neighbors can be of help as well. But especially spouses can see the diminished condition that their loved one's going through.
Absolutely.
Much clearer than the person who's going through it themselves.
We're big believers in statements from people talking about what they've observed. And I'll tell people, family, friends, go out to your priest or your rabbi if you can, because the further away from your blood they are, the more believable they're going to be.
Sure.
And if they can say, look, I've seen it with my own eyes. He can't do these things. And this is how his disability has impacted my life. We scheduled lunch 4 times and he canceled on me every time. Something like that. Little statements like that can all add up.
No, I think that's so important. And really it's again, I keep going back to it. You're building a case. You're not you're not making up stuff. You're just using what the person is going through in order to establish why they're entitled to the benefits that that they've earned.
Absolutely.
I mean, whether it's the VA, they've earned it because of their service to our country. Whether it's Social Security, in our case, most times it's the money that they paid into. It's the money that they paid into the Social Security system, and even into disability policy claims, they paid the premiums for those policies.
Or if they didn't, their employer did, but
Right.
it was part of the deal when they went to work. That's part
Exactly.
of why they went to work someplace. They had a good benefit package.
Yeah. So I sometimes get up on my soapbox and go a little bit crazy about when people think that, everyone's trying to manipulate the system when they're applying for Social Security, disability, or other types of claims. And it's really not that at all. 99% of the people much rather be having a normal life than trying to go through the process of trying to get benefits,
Oh, yeah.
and
I've
being under
helped-
the exam, the under microscope all this time.
I've helped thousands and thousands of people get disability benefits. I could probably count on one hand the people that I thought were shady,
Right.
and I fired them as clients.
Right.
I don't have any interest in representing that person because there's a good chance they're going to lose and I'm not going to get paid.
Right.
So I also don't like helping frauds.
Right.
So, but
and we have the same kind of philosophies because it's the exam. You're going to see the same examiners. You're going to see the same adjusters, and if they think that you're going to help somebody that may not be,
right,
then it may taint their opinion on the ones that you do have.
Yep.
And you don't want them to do that. So I think
true.
that's so important. I understand that you have developed what's called a Veterans Victory Blueprint. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what that is and how you utilize that?
So when our clients come in to see us, one of the initial things we have to do is get their claim file from VA. So we're going to actually download that from VA's electronic system. And we have a system that we use in the office to go through that, to evaluate those records that are in there. There are times when we can even find old claims that VA didn't properly handle that we can revive. So we can bring them back from the dead, so to speak,
Right.
and maybe get some benefits out of those. We can also find evidence in that claim file that is helpful that the veteran may not have known existed, and we can find the holes that are in the claim file. So the veteran may think VA got the records from someplace. VA didn't get them. Well, we've go get them. So part of what we're doing is developing what we call a battle plan. So the battle plan is just how we're going to go about winning the claim. And to the extent we've identified new claims, we're doing this for each of the claims that the veteran has. In conjunction with a conversation with the client, we make decisions about the direction to move forward. The interesting thing about the VA is, unlike Social Security, where there's a series of appeals, but they're the same appeals you have to follow, in the VA system, you can actually choose different paths. There's different kinds of appeals, some with evidence, some without evidence. Some can go to another agency, part of the agency, the Board of Veterans Appeals. You can even go as high as a court in the veteran system. But we make decisions about the best path to pursue, and we do that in conjunction with the client because we're talking about the speed of the process, what type of evidence is available. Sometimes we're actually planning 2 or 3 appeals down the road. So we can set up the dominoes because we may know how VA is going to react on something, and they'll give us a little piece of the pie here. We'll get another piece of the pie here. And so we develop a plan to win their claim.
That sounds like a great way to do it. I mean, that's from all the years, decades, as you've been helping people. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and people can really benefit from your knowledge and you going through the process already.
And it's important to understand it's individualized. So a lot of people will call us and think, well, you've got the plan, right? You got the 1, 2, 3 system. No, we have a system for how we go about doing this, but we're actually doing it for you and your claims. Because as you know, from doing Social Security and other areas, no 2 cases are the same.
Yeah, no auto case is ever the same. I mean,
people have different medical records and they present in different ways.
That's exactly true. Well, the trivia question is still out there. Stealing Paul Porter's idea of having a trivia question each night. I have this question, and the question was approximately how many U.S. military veterans are there out there today? Is it 8 million, 10 million, 12 million, or 16 million? You can give us your answer one of three ways. You can give us a call at 727-441-3000, or typing your answer right there on our live Facebook page at Perenich, Caulfield, Avril, and Noyes Injury Lawyers, or jump on our YouTube channel as well. We do have, probably only about 14 more minutes, maybe a little less than that, for you to come up with your answer. You give me the right answer, and we will be sure that you get a little gift for being so wise and answering that question for us. So again, three ways to give us that answer: Facebook, telephone, or YouTube. So while we have a few more minutes, I do want to ask you questions about, sometimes the clients are like, gosh, I just don't understand where to start or what the timeline is or what the process is. I know it's different in every types of case, but can you give a kind of a nutshell of what a veteran who's thinking about applying for the VA benefits, what's the process and the timeline?
Sure. VA has streamlined things in many ways over the years. Now they operate their applications out of their website, va.gov. Veterans can create an account and they can apply for benefits right there. Not just disability compensation, all types of benefits.
Okay.
GI Bill, other things like that. So if they're filing a disability compensation claim, they can go in and start the process there. Assuming they haven't done it right when they're leaving service, because the way the military branches are now, as military members are leaving service, they actually can start their claims before they ever leave the service.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't used to be that way for older veterans. It's a shame for them, but good for the younger guys.
Right.
So they can start that application process. And depending on where their case gets assigned, VA now has a national work queue based on the volume of work at the different regional offices around the country.
Yeah.
They may have a claim decision made within a couple of months.
Wow.
Much faster than it used to be.
Yeah.
And if they file an appeal, the average for some of the appeals is allegedly 145 days. We haven't seen many of them go that fast, but there are some, when we've been involved, where we've actually gotten veterans' appeals paid within 2 days.
Oh, wow.
So if you can tell the rater exactly where the problem was, we can get things done very quickly, assuming somebody looks at it and realizes what's going on. Other types of appeals can take a long time. I mentioned the Board of Veterans Appeals briefly a few moments ago. If you appeal to the board, there's a good chance it could take 3-4 years.
Oh, wow.
So we try to keep everything at the regional office level, where there's two different types of appeals there. So you've got the application, and then there's two kinds of appeals, one called higher level review, the other called supplemental claim. They each have different processing times, but they're much faster than what happens at the board.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes we can go through 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 appeals at the regional office before the Board of Veterans Appeals would have ever gotten to anything. So it's much faster than it used to be.
Yeah.
When I first started doing this work, it would take years.
I thought that's what you were going to tell me. It takes years to go through, so that's wonderful.
And back then it was paper files. So you had these pictures of somebody's desk with one file that was this big, and it just sat there not being opened for months and months and months.
Now, could the VA go back and re-review a claim and then pull benefits from the veteran?
They can, in certain circumstances, if they determine that fraud occurred, they can take benefits away. What's more common is that the VA will reduce a rating that's been assigned. And so until a veteran has had a rating for 20 years, it's not guaranteed to stay. But there are steps along the way at 5 and 10 years that can make it harder for VA to take benefits away. This is a reason why we always tell our clients, keep going to the doctor and keep telling them the problems you're having. Because if you stop going to the doctor and VA wants to look at your file in 3 years, they might say, well, you must be fine because you're not going to the doctor.
Right.
So VA can take benefits away. It has become more common.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. Particularly within, I'd say, the last 6 months, we're seeing a lot more reduction cases. And I don't really know the reason why, but we're just seeing it a lot.
Wasn't sure if they could argue that with the advances in medicine and and treatment that people can recover better and faster.
There is a component of that, but the vast majority of the disability ratings people are getting are for conditions that are not going to improve.
Okay.
The most common improvement case we see are cancer cases. Prostate cancer, great example. If a veteran develops prostate cancer, they go in and have their prostate removed, and there is no residual cancer. Well, they don't have cancer anymore. So they went from 100% to 0 because they don't have cancer. However, they need to look at all of the other problems that result from that. So in the prostate cancer example, they may have urinary incontinence, they may have erectile dysfunction, they may have mental health issues because of those 2 previous things. Those can all be rated as separate disabilities. So they may no longer have cancer, but the VA then has to go rate every other problem. And
would the VA do that on its own? Do they need an attorney or the VA or the veteran to say, hey, what about this?
The VA is supposed to do that on its own. That's where folks like me come in, because there's many times when they don't. And we'll have a veteran come to us and say, well, I had prostate cancer and now I have to wear absorbent undergarments and they're not rating me for that. And we have to go appeal and get them to rate that properly, as an example.
I think it's so important, because I mean, these guys and gals have put their life on the line for our country. And, I think it's important that they're protected. They get the benefits that they're entitled to, that we said that we were going to provide for them. Right. So I think that's so important.
It's not like the military has the highest pay either.
I know.
So part of the deal is if something happens to you down the road, you can get disability compensation.
Yeah. What message do you want to give the veterans when it comes to pursuing the benefits that they earned?
Apply for any condition that you think is related to your service as soon after you leave the service as possible.
That's key, is the timing of it?
Absolutely key. Okay. And the only reason is when veterans wait a long time, they very often don't see doctors, like I was talking about earlier. If you're seeing a doctor every week, you could apply, but you only get paid back to the day you apply. There's no retroactive benefit before the day you apply. So apply as soon as you can. And if you have a real claim, don't stop appealing. In the VA system, you can continue to submit new evidence to support your claim literally till the day you die.
Wow.
So there's no reason to give up. A veteran has 1 year to appeal. They should file an appeal. If they have a real claim for something that's related to service, don't give up.
That they're treating for, because it's very important. Medical documentation is so important in every area of law that we do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's frustrating for vets because they'll go to doctors who will say, look, I can't do anything to help you.
Right.
And say, that's true.
Yes.
But if you're not documenting that you continue to have a problem, VA very often will say, well, we don't think you have a problem because you're not going to a doctor.
That's right. Now, I know you and your firm stay very much involved in the veteran community. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how you and your firm stays connected and builds trust with the veterans that you serve and that you help?
Sure. Well, we're actively involved in shaping legislation. I am currently the vice president of the board of the National Organization of Veterans Advocates, which is the attorney bar association for lawyers that do what I do.
A nationwide organization.
And we routinely lobby in Washington. There are veterans issues that come up all the time. And of course, there are other organizations out there that do lobbying, and sometimes we're standing side by side with them fighting for veterans' rights. In September, our whole team actually is going to be in Pittsburgh at a Veterans Stand Down, which is an event put together for homeless veterans. So we'll be there giving advice to vets and helping them with issues that they're dealing with. And that's not always just about veterans' disability compensation. Sometimes it's about putting them in touch with a lawyer that can help them do a will or something like that.
Sure.
So we're active in the community. We did a stand down in the Newport Richey area just a few months ago, actually. And, we do everything that we can to be connected with our clients and interact with them. So we have a regular newsletter that goes out that gives them information about their claims, even long after they've been our client, they can continue to read that and learn things that can help them, not just about their claim, but about dealing with VA. Sometimes it's about state benefits because disabled veterans can get a wide variety of state benefits. Here in Florida, for instance, hunting and fishing licenses can be free. License tags can be free, depending on your rating. Property taxes can be waived. So there's a whole lot of issues that we try to connect with our clients about and make sure they're aware, because one of the challenges in the veterans community is just awareness.
And that's wonderful. And I'm so glad to know you. And I know you've done all those wonderful things. And despite having all those things that are on your plate, you still come and be a special guest on FLA Law. So I really do appreciate that you do that. How can listeners get in touch with you if they need to get in touch with you?
Well, our website is tuckerdisability.com, and you can reach out there. There is a platform there. You can connect with us.
There's a lot of good information on your website.
We try to have as much general information for background as possible. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, where I put a lot of information out. And we have a YouTube channel. And our phone number is 727-572-5000. And people can call anytime. And if you've got a possible claim, we've got people who are willing to help and have you talk to one of our attorneys or agents.
That's perfect. And how many attorneys do you have working for you?
We currently have 2 licensed attorneys and 2 who just took the bar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have some accredited agents also in the VA world. You don't have to be an attorney.
Yes.
Yep. And we have a lot of non-attorney advocates that do different work on the cases, several of whom worked at VA who came to us.
That's wonderful, because I think that's important. I mean, you need to have those people building the case file for them and doing the research for you so you can do all the wonderful things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Before we end for the night, I wondered if you can share an example of, a veteran story that you were able to help to make a real difference in their life. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah, you
so
did.
I put you right on the spot there.
I'm sure you're like me. You have so many.
Yes.
One of the very first cases I got involved in, and this is back when there were paper files before the government allowed us to get into their electronic claim files. And you would wait for years and years and go through multiple appeals. Gentleman came to me. He was stationed on Eniwetok Atoll, which is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where they tested hydrogen bombs. And in the VA system, if you were there while they were testing, you've probably seen some of the videos with the guys with the goggles watching the explosions, or you went back later to clean up, you're presumed to have been exposed to radiation. But if you were there in the 14 years in between, there's no presumption that you were exposed to radiation. This guy ended up with 3 kinds of cancer. It took us 12 years fighting for him. We got those cancers service connected.
That's
we
wonderful.
got VA to finally concede, he was exposed to radiation.
That's John Tucker. That's why he does what he does. He's a great guy. If you have any questions regarding VA, just reach out to him or reach out to us. If you didn't get to write his number down, you can always see us on Tuesday at 5 to 6. We are wrapping up tonight's show. The answer to the trivia question was, Ed says it was 12. John, do you know it?
I think it's 10.
It's 16 million as of 2025. So we did not get the correct answer, but next week we'll be back with another trivia question. Thank you very much for listening. As I always say, drive safely and watch out for those who don't. Take care. Good night.
WTAN, Clearwater,
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade